Last weekend, I went to a Tantra workshop where things definitely got a lot spicier than I had anticipated. But I personally got a really huge amount out of it, and I think many of you watching would as well. So today what I want to do is explain what the experience was like and what I think you guys could get out of going to a Tantra event yourselves. So I've always been really interested in self-development and constantly trying to be a better person. And a number of my friends up here are, they're pretty hippie. And in spite of that fact, they're actually really nice people. Some of them, such as Marcin, the kinky guru, and Divya Darling, the brain coach, who I have it on good authority, is also perfectly kinky in her own time, I've actually done podcast interviews with. So if you'd like to listen to them talk about their experiences around tantric experiences or getting to know yourself as a human being, I'll link to them below. So because of this, it shouldn't be a surprise that as 2022 rolled around and I started to open up to my friends about what I wanted to work on within myself in the new year, a number of them recommended that very strongly that I go and enroll in a day-long Tantra event, such as some of the ones that exist around me. So in December, I decided to enroll into a day-long event in January. So as the new year came in, it became 2023, and I started to, get warmed up in my head a little bit thinking about this event. I got an email from them, and it's, your stereotype kind of email. It's very friendly. It welcomes us all and tells us what to expect, and more importantly, what to bring to the event that's going to be on in just a few days. And the list is like this. It says, bring a water bottle, a towel, a sarong, some massage oil. That seems nice. I mean, it is a Tantra event, so massage oil seems like a good option. The journal and pen, if you like taking notes. A plate of delicious finger foods to share. Isn't that lovely? We're all going to be sharing food together. And I look down a little bit more, and it says, here we go. Before any exercise, agreements are made between practice partners regarding personal boundaries, dress code, STDs, and anything else that needs to be respected. Wait, STDs? I'd like to know, at this point, what my genitalia has to do with the practices we're going to be doing. So I reach out to our friend and I say, hey, I noticed they're asking about STDs. Exactly how is my Roger going to be involved in this experience? To which she replied, she said, don't worry, no one at this event is going to be touching your genitals. Whew, that's a relief, I think. And then she continues. Unless you want them to. Smiley face. So right now, I'm not sure what kind of weird, hippie, kinky sex retreat I've got myself involved with, but I'm enrolled, so I might as well go and find out, right? And it has been recommended by people who I trust and who know me very well, so I'm just going to go with it and see what happens. So the event itself had really two halves. The first half, and then you have some dinner. You go out and have dinner and take a little bit of time, and then you come back for the second half. In the first half, it was very much focused on really feeling into the masculine part of yourself, the feminine part of yourself, the idea of giving and receiving love, like being able to receive love from other people, being able to give love. The concept, we played a little bit with the concept of being completely in power of other people and having other people being completely in power over you. And it was really amazing experience. We sort of played a lot with understanding and feeling into each other's experiences as men and women. And I really enjoyed it, and I will tell you really the big takeaway that I got out of this. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about the takeaways I think guys in general might, but I'll share my own stuff. For me, my takeaway from this that was really big for me was I realized how strong a yearning I had to feel loved and connected to other people. Like, I have friends. I'm not a guy who has no friends. I'm not a loner anymore in the way that I behave in my life, but I still feel lonely. Right? And I wasn't aware of it till I went to this event and started to feel other people, I guess, giving that love. People I don't know, but just, I want to explain how it's all done. But to feel that was really big for me because it made me realize how much happier I could be or what things I need that I wasn't even aware that I needed as a guy to experience and feel. So that was a really important takeaway for me. And then we went away and we had an interim, some dinner time. And the second half began, right? Now, the second half was a little bit interesting because in the second half, people are dressed differently, right? A lot of people are dressed in various forms of sexual, right? Some people were dressed just regular, like myself. I was just dressed up, looking good. Other people were wearing all sorts of things, bathrobes, some lingerie I saw, just a range of different things, I think to suit different types of people. And it was really interesting because in spite of that, there was a huge amount of what we really did in this session was a huge amount of The first thing we really looked at was not just like consent, looking for consent or saying no, but we really played a lot with the feeling of doing something where someone would reject us, right? And practicing both the feeling of saying no to someone and turning them away, and also being turned away and being rejected, but actually learning to do that in a way that doesn't hurt or harm emotionally the other person and their wants and needs. Right? Which I think is really critical. And that was an interesting exercise, I think, that would be good for a lot of guys. It was interesting for me to be a part of as well. And then you start to look at and become really attuned to how do you like to be like loved? How would you like to have someone express love to you? How comfortable you to express love for someone else, or to let them feel loved? And we really began to feel like inside of our bodies and really get connected to. In fact, really, this was the whole day. The whole day was really about letting go of constantly having to think in our heads and just feel what's happening. And this was so apparent in the second half of the day, was you really just getting in your body and feeling, what am I feeling, right? When I'm in front of this woman or that woman or this person, what am I feeling? Am I feeling like I just don't want to really engage with this person energetically at all? Am I feeling like there's some sort of a sexual connection? Am I feeling like I would just like to feel loved by this person, or like just have a hug, right? And this can sound really hippie if you're not part of the context here. And I don't want to get too tied up in it. I just want to speak in more broad terms, because without being there to experience it is a little bit hard, especially because I'm not very hippie myself, right? It's not really my jam 100%. But it was really interesting, to really start to play with that, to get good at saying what you want from a person and really feeling it in your gut. What are you feeling? And to share that, and it was really amazing how quickly you can, because then you start to think about how do you like to be touched sensually? How would you give someone touch sensually, right? And how does that person respond to saying yes or no, or I like this, or I want that instead? And how do you get good at that? Because really, a lot of us don't really feel in our bodies when we're with someone. And what was so amazing was that when you're in this space with different people and you're not getting to know them, right? You're getting to feel their energy and you're getting to know them, I guess, emotionally, but you're not learning the facts about them. I don't know what anyone there did for work. I don't know I talked to a couple of the guys actually, but I don't really know where anyone lives. I don't know where they're originally from for most people. And it wasn't about the facts. It was about emotionally connecting with a person. And when you do that, when you're not in your head and you're just in your body and you're having this really you're feeling that person and you're not hiding from any sexual thoughts or feelings or lack of them, right? Or you're not judging. You're just being there with whatever's coming up for you, and they're doing the same thing. And you're not being overtly aggressive or assertive. Nobody is. You're just being with that and sharing that together. How much intimacy that creates, how rapidly. So both emotional and or sexual, right? The two can come together. And that is really amazing. And that is huge. For me, that was big. You see, the two things that I wanted when I went to this program was that I think I've always been a loner, right? And I knew that going to the end of 2022, and I wanted to feel like I could connect and really feel loved and connected with other people, right? And the other thing that I really wanted going into 2023 was that after my last 12-year relationship ended, I've really created, for self-protection, I've created a bubble around myself where sex and love is not easily connected for me at the moment, right? Because I had to create a safety space for myself emotionally. And has been historically quite a gap between the two. So I can have sex with a woman, I can like her, I can respect her, I can do all those things, but I can't really catch the feels and link that to the sexual experience, right? So there's a disconnect. And I really feel like through this event, through these activities, I've really joined those two again in a way that's quite profound. I know a lot of guys struggle with that link between emotions and the sexual experience, right? And intensity. And the intensity is a really big one, right? Because I'm going to talk about what every guy is going to expect out of this, but it is incredible how much emotional intensity, and that links to sexual as well, right? How much intensity you can create with a person you do not know that well. And what's more, guys, especially the guys watching, how much sexual/emotional intensity you can create, you can share in a moment with a person you wouldn't even be normally attracted to, right? And it's not about you have to do anything about it. I wasn't there to have sex. There are far more less complicated, less circuitous ways to get laid than to go an event like this. And I don't want to get caught up on that. I wasn't there for that. But it's you have that moment with someone and you move on, and you realize just being able to connect like that makes both parties very aroused, very switched on, very emotionally there, present with each other. And yeah, I mean, I found it really quite moving. And then at the end of this second part of the event, well, what happens is then they say, all right, now what's going to happen is it's playtime. It's a free-for-all. I think playtime sounds a bit sexual. It's a free-for-all now. So really what happens is if you feel like you want to be very sexual, kind of go over here. If you feel like you want to just get loved and hugged and stuff, kind of go here. If you feel like you just want to like heal, you know, and like maybe get or give a massage, heal someone or be healed, let's maybe go here. If you just want to connect with people, like there's going to be a bonfire outside, right? So it's very much about where you're at and what you want to get from it. And I don't want to get focused on the sex side of things because I wasn't there trying to get laid. Again, that wasn't the purpose for me. But secondly, I wouldn't want guys to think that's a space you'd go to when that you're just trying to get that, right? It's very much about the experience of connection with people, and everyone there has that mindset. That's really critical to say. So it wasn't just like some kind of weird random orgy. It was a different experience that I really enjoyed, but did not expect it to go that far. It was, you know, it's interesting to see that happening all around you. So you know, I talked about what I got out of it, but I want to mention, I gave this experience because, you know, a lot of guys haven't been to something like this. They don't know what happens. They don't know what it's like. But I want to just say, I walked out of that event, and it's 2 days later now. I feel, not wanting to sound too much like a hippie, I feel loved up. Like, I feel full of love, and that feels so hippie-ish to say. But for someone who's lived most of his life, you know, I've got friends, but feeling like a bit of a loner, to feel like just loved, like in general, like it's hard to explain. I feel that walking away. I also feel incredibly sexually charged, very potent. Like, you know, I'm big on the dangerous man, the concept of masculinity, but I feel like in a very different level. You know, if I'm around a woman, I'm not going to be sexually aggressive to her, but like there is no hiding that part of me that's a little bit dangerous to her. In a very sexy way, I think. You know, it's not dangerous to women, but it's sexy. And I feel like really charged, highly, highly charged after the event. But that's me, right? And what I think a lot of you guys get out of it, and I kind of made a little bit of a list because I was thinking about what guys would get out of it. I think one of the things is learning to ask for what you want from a woman and being okay, learning to be rejected in sort of an environment where that's expected, right? And experiencing that with where it's done with a lot of love, because I think that's the first point. A lot of guys, all they know of rejection is mean rejection. When you have a bit of experience of feeling rejected from a good space, it hurts a lot less. And what's more is the more loved you feel in general, the less rejection will hurt in general. And that's a critical thing. That's a big thing, I think, is that if you feel unliked by people in general, rejection hurts because you're craving that love. And when you've got more of it from people in general, it helps a lot. The second thing is, you know, separating is what I got is that energetic connection between love and sex and emotions and sex. Because for me now, walking away from that experience, what I know for 100% certain, whether I'm with a woman casually or in a relationship, I want that not just the sexual charge, but the sexual, like, emotional thing. They go together. And when they're both there, it's intense. And I want that. And I don't want anything less than that from my experiences. And I suspect that when you are intent on bringing that to interactions with women will respond to that really positively because we all want that, right? It's not like only some people want that. Everyone enjoys that kind of an experience. I think that it's also really, guys would benefit from this a lot because it would help you to learn to become a lot more self-aware of your own wants and needs and desires as a man, because I think to a large degree we tend to only think about the desire to get laid, the desire to have sex, and lots of it as much as possible. But actually there's a whole deeper world that I was already aware of to some degree, but it really pushed me into it deeply in a way I really can't say that I have to the same degree, where there's that deeper level of sexual desire. I don't want to say sex again, because you don't have to have sex with a person to have that experience, right? To experience that. And the more you embody that, I think you will benefit from the experiences you do have, as well as, honestly, I think more women would want to have those experiences with you than just randomly being shagged. I think loneliness is a big one. I know a lot of men have lived through life being a lot more lonely than I have ever felt. I don't want to take that away from, when I talk about myself as being a loner, it was just apparent to me, someone who doesn't think of himself as feeling particularly lonely, how lonely by contrast I realized I was. And I know most men feel alone. And it was amazing to be at an event like this where you didn't, that just got eradicated. And I know that this is like post-event high, that this will pass, that my day-to-day life will filter back in. But there's no reason why you can't actually start to bring some of that love to the friendships you already have, right? And the sexual connections you already have, and bring more of that into your life. I think that's the main thing. Knowing that it's there and knowing that it can be had without having to be romantically connected to someone, I think is important for a lot of guys, that you realize that you can start seeking that and get it and know what that feels like. I think for a number of guys, it could also be very powerful to see women embody a heightened sexual space, to be highly sexually charged without it coming from a space of being like trampy or slutty or needy or cheap in any way, right? From a very healthy space, we want to be very sexually charged from that space, is a thing I think a lot of men don't get to see, and I think would be, I think it's important for a lot of guys to be able to distinguish the difference between a woman who's very sexually healthy and charged and a woman who's doing it because she just needs validation or needs to be seen in a certain way, or trying to cheapen herself. I don't like these terms. These terms are often very derogatory, and I'm not thinking of it from a derogatory sense, but it's very different. I think it's very good for guys to see that and be around it and really realize that all women can be highly sexual, and are very highly sexual, because I don't think a lot of guys have that experience without necessarily attaching it to cheapness or nastiness or anything like that. The last thing that immediately comes to mind, I think, is learning how to engage in women from a space of like consent and respect without it being weak. Because I know a lot of guys struggle, and I did when I was young too. It's like, I don't want to be creep, I don't want to be nasty, I don't want to be that asshole that women complain about. But they also know that women are saying, oh, guys have to ask for consent and all this stuff. And it's like, how the hell do I engage women sexually without being just this wimpy little soft little guy who's got to ask for permission for everything? And I know that feeling. But I think this was a really great space for guys to learn the difference between the two and learn that you can be coming from a space of looking for consent from a person to know that they're comfortable, but also be very like clear on what you want, very sexually charged, very in your masculine and sexy from the woman's standpoint. That's a thing that could happen. So I think it's good for those reasons. I think it's likely to be very healthy for a lot of reasons. Again, I'm not a Tantra expert. I'm not really, heavily into this stuff, but I got a huge amount out of it. And I think a number of you guys would too. Now, I'm not going to talk about what this event specifically was or who I did it with. I know that there are a lot of these around the world, in different countries. I know I've seen them around. If you'd like to know more or where you could find them, feel free to send me a message, and I'll message me below, and I'll kind of reply to you there. If you've got any other questions, guys, go ahead and ask. It's hard with an event like this to talk about it out of context, because you're not there, you're not having those deep connections with people. So it can feel a little like, what's this? This feels like a kind of weird, kinky, strange. Yeah, it's easy to pass a judgment on an event like this without having been, and I think I have in the past too. And I think certainly there are some people there who are a little bit narcissisty, right? They're a little bit like a narcissist. They're a little bit looking for attention, but that's not the norm, right? That's not the every person. Most people there are really amazing. I mean, I had mostly amazing experiences there, honestly. But I'm not trying to pretend like that element couldn't be present in an event like that. I'm trying to say it wasn't as extreme or as bad in that way as I thought it might be. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Hope this was interesting, because it was a fascinating experience for me. And yeah, let me know in the comments below if you liked it. Smash the like button and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in my future videos.